people don't understand about Sanatan Dharma is they meet its modern interpretation called as Hinduism. They are slightly different, both terms. Hinduism comes from the whole event of Persian invaders and other foreign people coming into India, stepping onto the other side of the Sindhu Nadi, which called Sindh region. Anxiety is a very trending topic in Gen Zs. मुझे anxiety attacks आते हैं. So anxiety actually has its roots in a condition called as Chittodvega, which is present in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Yes. So we have the concept of 5 kaleshas that cause all of the problems in life. They are avidya, which is ignorance, asmita, which is ego, I am doing something, raga, which is attachment to things, dvesha, which is repulsion, and the last one we have is abhinivesha, which is the fear of death.
Our guest for the day, Manik Rege, is a dynamic digital marketer and content creator with a passion for storytelling and spirituality. Now, over the years, Manik has honed his expertise with impactful work with international startups like Fave and Ring It Plus, as well as having worked with famous brands such as Amazon Pay, Tata Consumer Products, and Mahindra. Now, beyond its professional accolades, it's also very important to note that Manik is an exciting content creator, and his Instagram page, Manik Thinks, garners over 4.1 plus million views on his reels and every other content that he creates and puts up on social media. He also creates long form content on YouTube wherein he prefers to elaborate onto the topics that he decides to discuss upon. Now, in addition to all his digital ventures, it's also pertinent to note that Manik is an advocate for animal welfare, leading the think tank Snuggo, which leverages youth innovation for stray animal care. Now, as the author of Tired to Hired, which is basically a guide for youth navigating the job market, the job space, and also currently serving as the cultural and executive head at Shebang, Manik is a person whose work transcends beyond compassion, beyond storytelling. It centers not just around spirituality, but around a lot of which that is relevant to the current generation. Manik, it is a wonderful having you with us today.
It is wonderful being here as well. Good friend of your team members. एंड आपने इतना सब कुछ अच्छा बोला है, ये मेरे मैनेजर के सामने भी बोल दो, मुझे अप्रेजल और प्रमोशन भी मिल जाए.
बस सच ही बोला है हमने.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I'm glad you follow the page as well. Is there any like sort of like content or piece that you found interesting in that?
I feel like I wouldn't be able to just pinpoint like one, particular reel or anything of that sort, because when I went through your page, I went through it exhaustively. To the extent that I've like literally covered pretty much everything of what you've created. And yeah, I remember like Sneha and I were just sitting over a cup of tea and we're like, okay, wow, this is interesting content. Now this is something that really caught our eye.
I'm glad. It's not something I was originally into, spirituality, for our viewers who don't know me. I'm Manik Thinks on Instagram. On a break, we'll be back on Instagram soon, but I usually talk about like spirituality, Sanatan Dharma, Hinduism, so on and so forth, from a very Gen Z lens. I don't like to preach myself because I wouldn't preach what I don't follow in practice myself. For me, it is more important to understand the meanings behind these things as well, which I think our generation is lost on nowadays as well. So that's an attempt on the page that I'm trying to make.
So like you've mentioned that this is not something that you've been doing forever, right? How exactly did your spiritual journey begin, and how has it impacted all the facets of your life?
So interesting you ask that, because my spiritual journey, I would say, is the spiritual journey of a lot of Gen Z. So I'm sure a lot of people watching this will be able to relate to what I'm about to say next. I grew up in a very religious household. So I grew up learning about mantras and shlokas from Nana Nani, from our grandparents, which is the first time we are introduced to the concept of religion or spirituality. I grew up going to temples, and I grew up with the whole notion of transactional religion, as I like to call it. Transaction मतलब simple भाषा में अगर समझाना है कि मैं अगर गॉड को प्रे करूंगा तो मुझे लाइफ में सक्सेस मिलेगा, मैं ये ऐसी चीज़ें करूँगा तो someone up there called as God will help me do that as well. If I say something bad, if I do something bad, then this will happen. And if I have to succeed in life, I have to go to the temple. मुझे फूल वूल चढ़ाने पड़ेंगे, बहुत कुछ चीज़ें देनी पड़ेगी, गॉड को ऑफर करनी पड़ेगी ताकि मुझे वो चीज़ें मिलेंगी. So that was part one of my journey, and I feel a lot of us go through that as children as well, that very transactional in nature, something that a movie, oh my god, which many of us
Right.
must have seen, has talked about very creatively and extensively as well. What happens when we grow up in this kind of setting is when that transaction doesn't get complete,
Right.
जब भी वो जीपे रिजेक्ट होता है, जीपे गॉड पे मैं बोलता हूँ, तभी हम सब डिसअपॉइंट होके फिर एथीस्ट्स बन जाते हैं. मेरे साथ भी ऐसे ही कुछ हुआ. In school I faced a lot of fat shaming, bullying about my skin color as well, about how I am as a personality as well, which helped me like just move closer towards logic and made me think like the world is harsh, the world is bad. And as a result, consequently, I stopped believing in God more and more. And that faith, like, it just vanished. When that transaction wasn't complete, कि मैंने तो इतनी पूजा की, मैं तो God में believe भी करता हूँ, पर nobody is helping me out. I feel alone. And that I feel alone के sentiment के वजह से I became an atheist. I've been an atheist all my life after childhood. And what brought me back onto the path is again something a lot of people might relate is I lost someone very close to me. She was a very good guardian, I would say. And I was very close to that person. I lost her. She died last year at the beginning as well, which is when you'll notice I started the page as well. So it was a reaction to that. But when that happened, when that loss happened in life, I was there in our Hindu culture, we cremate people with fire. So I was there at the crematorium grounds and I started wondering, why this? Why not burial? And if burial, why burial? Like, what is the whole thought process behind death, which is a very sensitive topic as well, gives our generation a lot of anxiety. So that loss, when something really, really bad happens, when you're at rock bottom in your life, many of us start again looking to spirituality for answers as well. And then I started again opening the books, seeing what answers I can get. And now that as an adult, I was looking at these things independently, not through मम्मी ने बताया, किसी पंडित ने बताया, astrologer ने. When I started doing my own research, the epiphany I had, the realization tube-light moment जो हम बोलते हैं, that I had was Sanatan Dharma spirituality, which we're going to talk about ahead. It is not as much about God as people think. God is a very small, important element, but a very small element in this ocean of learning that you can have. It is more about the discovery of yourself, who you are as a person. It is more about answering questions to life that science may not be able to answer yet. What happens after death? Why do we die? Why are we alive in general? So it helps you understand the meaning behind life, helps you become a better person, and it is more about the journey inward than outward, which I feel is a very beautiful line that caught my attention when I was reading through one of the books, that it is not about going to heavens or anything. We'll come to that aspect as well. I know you have a question lined up on that, but it is more about understanding your own true nature. If you are anxious, if you suffer from anxiety, why are you anxious? Our dharma, our books have answers to this. Very strong, logical answers, not voodoo, not pseudoscience, very strong science-based answers to it. Uh, and that is what brought me back to spirituality.
Right.
The reason the page was developed was, you'd be shocked to know, the goal was never to make the page public. I started putting out reels एज अ नोट पैड कि मैंने आज इसके बारे में सीखा, तो मैं इसका खुद का एक एक्सप्लेनेशन डाल रहा हूँ, मेरे फ्रेंड्स एंजॉय कर रहे थे, एंड जस्ट 1 or 2 ऑफ दोज रील्स फॉर सम रीजन ब्लू अप, got liked by celebrities and everything, and that is how a lot of people discovered the page as well. So the page was also not intended कि मुझे कंटेंट बनाना है या मुझे वायरल होना है. पेज वॉज मोर ऑफ अ इनर रिफ्लेक्शन, लाइक एन इनर डायरी. द ओनली रीजन आई यूज्ड टू पोस्ट इट इज माय फ्रेंड्स स्टार्टेड फाइंडिंग दीज थिंग्स वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग एज वेल. आई नोटिस दैट द गैप इज इन एक्सप्लेनेशन एंड सिम्बॉलिज्म ऑफ दीज थिंग्स. हमें बहुत सारी चीज़ें सिर्फ बोली जाती है कि ये करो, भगवान के सामने 7 बजे बैठो, sit down like this, do that, but nobody has really explained to our generation why we do these things, what are the meanings behind our mantras as well. So that is the gap I am trying to close through the page. That if this is a mantra, what's the meaning behind it? How can it help you practically in your real life as well? If you maybe you don't believe in God, the beauty about this topic is you don't have to, as I said, believe in God. You have to go on a journey about your own nature, and that's still okay. That's not considered like a sin or something. You can still practice Sanatan Dharma without believing in a particular deity as well. There's a whole entire thought behind it called as Advait philosophy, which we'll come to. That's a term you mentioned. So that is how the journey started. Nothing to do with me wanting to be successful, me wanting to understand myself better, which I feel is amazing if you see the scope of this subject in your practical life as well.
I mean, Manik, I personally resonate with everything that you said. And, it's wonderful having you be so candid about the fact that nothing is rectilinear in that sense. No journey is ever rectilinear. We have our ups, we have our downs, and just because we've disconnected from a certain path does not mean we cannot find ourselves back onto that path. Now, you mentioned something which I found quite interesting. You spoke about the transactional nature that is adopted by a lot of people in terms of their relationship with God, right? What is your opinion on this though? That there are a lot of people who do not do a lot of things which may be deemed as bad by whatever the moral convention is. They do not do it out of fear of something bad happening to them. Now, of course, that also comes from a very selfish place कि मैं बुरा नहीं कर रही हूँ क्योंकि मुझे नहीं चाहिए कि मेरे साथ कुछ बुरा हो. But does it still not act as a deterrent in stopping somebody from doing something that would be morally wrong?
So very interesting that you bring this up. I'd just like to take a step forward, and before we talk about this concept about मुझे ऐसे क्यों होता है, जो हमारी generation इस word को use करती है, karma happens. If I do something bad, then it will happen. So that's why if I am afraid of it, I will not do it. Then, as you said, it is better that it will not happen to me. If I don't go and kill someone, then I might not suffer in life as well. But the problem with believing it that way is a lot of people rightly point out, and oh my god, इस मूवी में भी उस प्रोटैगनिस्ट ने पॉइंट आउट किया था कि बहुत सारे लोग हैं जो मर्डरर्स नहीं है पर उनका भी रोड एक्सीडेंट्स होता है. So then people say, then it doesn't make sense. People in fact say that I have not done anything bad in my life. I fear that if I do something bad, this will happen. They still end up going through something bad. Okay. So that is why I said thinking in transactional terms is not something that's encouraged, because there's this contradiction pops up कि मैंने कुछ गलत किया नहीं है तो भी मेरे साथ क्यों गलत हो रहा है. ये जो question आता है, we'll come to that concept of karma later towards. But I just want to take a step back and explain that what we are talking about, it's called Sanatan Dharma. For a reason, and once I explain the meaning of that term, a lot of I think questions will follow that will help to clarify this concept of karma as well. So the first thing people don't understand about Sanatan Dharma is they meet its modern interpretation called as Hinduism. They are slightly different, both terms. Hinduism comes from the whole event of Persian invaders and other foreign people coming into India, stepping onto the other side of the Sindhu Nadi, which called Sindh region that we know of from our history books. It was called Sindh region. And then observing the various things that people sitting over here are doing, then calling all of it together called as Hindu. So that's where the word Hinduism comes from. It comes from Sindhu Nadi and it comes from the idea कि इस side नदी के इस side जो भी लोग practice कर रहे हैं, believe कर रहे हैं, इन सबको हम हिंदू बुलाएंगे. That is how they grouped us as Hindus as well. Originally, however, if you turn back the clock of time, Hinduism has its roots in Sanatan Dharma as a concept. So what that means is you have two words. One is Sanatan and one is Dharma. Dharma for us Gen Zs, we usually think about it as dharma is equal to religion. Mera dharma kya hai? Hindu, Muslim, Christian. But if you look at the roots of dharma, dharma comes from the root of dharyate. Dharyate in Sanskrit, it means foundation. So dharma as a term means foundation, nothing else. It is the foundation of our life. More deeply, if you think about it, foundation का अलग meaning होता है the truth about our life. What is the meaning about our life? Now, if you pair this with another word called as Sanatan, Sanatan means eternal, timeless, something that has always existed, something that will always exist even after all of us die, something that exists right now. Put the two words together. What Sanatan Dharma means is the eternal truth of life. That's the simple meaning. What is the meaning about life? That is what those two words encapsulate. Which is why we don't club it as a religion, because what we in Sanatan Dharma believe is all of us are born as a Sanatani. We may adopt different religions and faiths throughout our lives, which is not discouraged. It is encouraged to pursue your own path. It's not like, oh, now you're an outcast or something. But we are all born as these human beings. We adopt our own marks and we adopt our own beliefs and we do our own collation life, which we'll come to. But this is the truth that we are born with, that we know. The goal becomes to go back to that truth eventually that we knew at the beginning about ourselves as well. So that's the meaning of Sanatan Dharma. And if I had to then answer this question, what is the meaning of life? The core, most important teaching of Sanatan Dharma is just to be kind to people as well. You don't have to do anything else. There is no rigid rituals, pathways. There are ways for you to accelerate that growth as well. But Sanatan Dharma never actually preaches the idea of doing strict rituals to get to a level that we'll talk about. We call it moksha. So Sanatan Dharma, for the lack of a better phrase, it's a pretty chill group to be in. That is why you'll notice it is also one of, now that we have termed it a religion, Hinduism, you'll notice it is also one of the very few or probably the only religion in the world that does not have a conversion ceremony. अगर आपको एक अलग faith में adopt होना है, which is great. All faiths have their own, no disrespect to any faith, but they have their conversion ceremonies. You have to do something, say some prayers, be a part of certain rituals, go through certain processes to be adopted into those faiths as well. Right. Sanatan Dharma does not have an official ceremony. Now there are modern ways that people are helping creating to help others, but those are structured, formed for our generation, because we feel कि अगर conversion ceremony नहीं है तो proof कैसे होगा कि मैं एक हिंदू बन गया हूँ. तो उसके लिए हमने मैन मेड फ्रेमवर्क्स कुछ बनाए हैं. थिंक ऑफ इट एज यू गेटिंग इनटू अ कॉलेज डॉर्म ग्रुप or something like that, then you would have some sort of like ritual that you'll have to go through. Maybe a fun thing, maybe a ice-breaking ceremony, adoption ceremony. So those are there, they exist, but they are not original in their form. ऐसे कोई original conversion ceremony नहीं है for the same belief that we are all the same people. One beautiful teaching of Sanatan Dharma is Ekam sata vipra bahuda vadanti. What that bahuda vadanti, what that means is, I'm sorry if I got that wrong in the comments. I'm still polishing my Sanskrit. But what that means is, God is one. We all know each other, God by different ways. Like we know God through different ways. Someone calls him Vishnu, others call him Allah, someone calls God Jesus Christ. So Sanatan Dharma actually does not reject that idea. It says that God is one, but there are different ways of exploring and knowing God as well. So anyway, so that is where the story begins. But of course, there's a long story ahead. So you had a question about like what are some core what
Right.
was that?
So, this is something that I've been hearing for quite some time now. As to the lack of a better word, I'd like to call them pillars, right? So, I've heard quite often that there are essentially four pillars of Sanatan Dharma. So, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha.
Sure.
Right. So I just wanted to get this clarified from you. Does that, do these pillars, in a sense, summarize what Sanatan Dharma embodies?
Interesting. So, if we have to talk about this topic, this will take like 7 hours. So that is why we have these pillars that condense all of
Right.
it into just four goals. And I feel like each of these pillars, just talking briefly about them, will open a lot of you guys up to the beauty of what this faith system is, starting with the last one I want to go for. It's called moksha. Moksha, a lot of people would have heard it as liberation. As well. Now, the interesting one of the teachings about Sanatan Dharma is that there is no heaven or hell. In other faiths, you must have heard that there is an eternal heaven, that if you're a good boy or girl, you'll go to heaven. If you're a bad boy or girl, you'll go to hell and be punished for your sins. Interestingly, there's no such thing as a heaven or hell in Hinduism, in Sanatan Dharma. There is a Swarga Loka and there are lokas below us. So I'll come to that in a bit. But the main goal of Sanatan Dharma is not to live happily ever after and enjoy the bliss of life, enjoy a lot of pleasures up in heaven with all of the beautiful people. That's what a lot of like faith systems talk about. Sanatan Dharma separates itself by saying that the goal of life is not to have those pleasures, to have those happiness, all of that as well. The goal of life is to remove yourself from all of this cycle that is going on, cycle of life and death and life and death. Because just for others who might not know this or might be very well new to this, Sanatan Dharma believes in the concept of rebirth. So it does not say that this is your only birth. You keep coming back and forth, keep getting stuck in this web of life. You are you right now. I am Manik right now. I might come back as someone else in the future as well. Maybe not even a human being. I might come back as an animal on earth as well. The goal becomes not to like become an angel or become God. The goal becomes to get away from all of this, because there is so much suffering, there is so much issue in every life form there exists as well. And that is what separates this concept of moksha from swarga. Swarga is a realm that we have. So for those of you who might have seen Marvel, you know that there are different realms. There's Asgard, there's Earth. Earth also has a name in Marvel as a Midgard, I think. There are different levels. Think of them as levels. In Sanatan Dharma, we have the concept of 14 lokas. 14 realms है. हम मिडल लेवल पे है. अर्थ जो हम बोलते हैं, भूलोक बोलते हैं. हमारे ऊपर पितृलोक है, जिधर हमारे नाना नानी एंसेस्टर्स सब बैठे हैं. हम बोलते हैं ना कि मेरी नाना नानी की याद आ रही है. सो देयर इज अ कॉन्सेप्ट दैट दे आर देयर resting there and giving us their blessings. Above that is Swargaloka, where all of these gods and these deities sit. But the interesting thing to understand about this is not a permanent destination. If the gods do something that is wrong, they can slip down the game as well, and they can enter the lower levels below earth. There's Talatala Loka, Rasatala Loka, Patal Loka, which is a famous series now on Amazon. So Patal Loka is also, it's not hell. Hell is something that would be permanent, that you are stuck there. The beauty of Sanatan Dharma says that even if you are in hell right now,
Right.
you can do good things and level up and
Upward
keep
shifting.
going up. Eventually, above all of those 14 levels is the final level where you get removed from the cycle and then there's nothing else. बोलते हैं.
Right.
So I find this very interesting. Just to sum up all the gyan I'm giving, I find this interesting because it doesn't turn people into black and white and evil and good. There have been evil people who've done horrible, nasty stuff, and they can still redeem themselves and go up the ladder. There have been very great people up top who have succumbed to their pride, their envy, दिमाग घूम गया उनका बहुत सक्सेस जो दिमाग पे जाते हैं सफरिंग फ्रॉम सक्सेस जो हम बोलते हैं मीन कल्चर में व्हेन दे डू दैट दे हैव स्लिप्ड डाउन द लैडर एज वेल आई फाइंड दैट वेरी पीसफुल टू नो कि मैंने अगर कुछ गलत किया है आई हैव अ चांस टू इम्प्रूव माई सेल्फ एंड अगेन गो अप एज वेल इट्स नॉट लाइक मैं अभी गंदा बन गया हूँ आई एम एन इविल पर्सन सो आई विल गेट ड्राउन्ड इन हेल आई कैन एस्केप हेल एज वेल. So that's your first tenet, moksha. The second tenet that I find interesting is artha, as you tell. Artha is literally wealth creation. So many a times the misconception that people have is if I start becoming spiritual, if I start believing in all of these religious things, then I will have to give up pleasures. I can't go to nice restaurants. I can't go to nice cafes. I can't travel the world. I can't open my own business because business is equal to greedy. ऐसा थिंक किया जाता है मैं पैसे के बारे में सोच नहीं सकता बट सनातन धर्म एक्चुअली सेज दैट अर्थ इज गुड क्रिएटिंग वेल्थ इज अ गुड थिंग बिकॉज देन यू कैन यूज दैट वेल्थ for the good of the society as well.
Right.
So obviously dharma doesn't recommend कि आप पैसा कमाओ और आप ड्रिंक करो आप ड्रग्स में वो पैसा डालो गलत चीज़ें करो मॉरली रॉन्ग चीज़ें करो जो खुद के बॉडी को हार्म कर सकती है खुद के माइंड को हार्म कर सकती है या दूसरों को भी हार्म कर सकती है इट डजेंट एनकरेज दैट but it doesn't stop you from becoming a startup bro or a startup girl. It encourages you to do your own entrepreneurship, succeed in life, gain as much wealth as you want to. Just ensure that you're using that wealth for charity so that you can help others as well. And again, I find that interesting for our generation, which sees this conflict. कि अगर मैं religious हुआ तो मुझे बंद करनी पड़ेगी चीज़ें और अगर मैं रिलीजियस नहीं होता हूँ इट मीन्स आई एम अ बैड पर्सन so there's no duality like that artha as a concept is important because as I said it encourages you to be ambitious as well.
Right.
The only concept that's tied to this which you were asking is when you are doing all of this when you are pursuing different things trying to go up the ladder.
Right.
Do it from a very non-selfish perspective. Do it from a selfless perspective कि मुझे ये करना है क्योंकि मैं सीख रहा हूँ and if I succeed I will use that success to help others out as well. This is where the concept of nishkama karma comes in. So I'll answer that first question of yours. When you do something according to our dharma, when you do something with an intent कि मैं अगर आज जाके किसी को फूड खिलाऊंगा तो मुझे अच्छा होगा दैट इज अ चीट कोड कि मैं अगर मंदिर में जाके फूल चढ़ाऊंगा तो मुझे ये चीज़ मिलेंगी या मैं किसी को हार्म नहीं करूंगा तो मैं सक्सीड होऊंगा. सो यू आर स्टिल थिंकिंग ऑफ your material gains. You are still thinking ki how can I succeed as well. The moment you do that, our dharma is built by a very strong game developer called as God. So he knows where we are cheating as well.
Right.
So he will immediately catch that and he will not give you the bonus points for doing that good as well. So whenever you are trying to donate to charity, trying to do something good, the rule to keep in mind is nishkama karma, which means you are not having selfish motives behind it as well कि मैं ये कुछ करूँगा तो मुझे कुछ मिलेगा मैं ये कर रहा हूँ क्योंकि मेरा वो धर्म है which brings us to the third tenet. Stick with me, I know it's a huge discussion but this brings us to the third topic called as dharma which is the third tenet, that when you're doing good selflessly, you are following something called as your dharma. Dharma, as I said, it's your truth, it's your nature. If I ask you, what does fire do? What would you say? What
Fire.
is
I mean, obviously, the
fire?
first thing that comes to my mind, unfortunately, is ruin.
Fire ruins, but fire burns in general.
Right.
It might ruin
Right.
or it might give you heat. So
Right,
that's
right.
good and bad.
Right.
But at its essence, fire का धर्म है जलना.
जलना.
नदी का धर्म है बहना. तो
Right.
मानव धर्म है kindness, social service, charity, so on and so forth.
Right.
Is what dharma as a word means. That dharma is basically just following your duties as a human being, following your responsibilities as a human being. Up until a point, that is true, that restraint is something that's encouraged in our dharma, so that you don't get sucked into that as well. But dharma does not discourage or prevent it, which is why you have kama. Kama means healthy desire.
Right.
Our culture has a book called as Kama Sutra, which many of us have heard in school, and we have laughed about it because we have heard there are like weird poses in it, and it's all a dirty book about sex and everything. The problem is nobody has actually read Kama Sutra. I've read Kama Sutra, and Kama Sutra का जो ये sexual positions का जो section है, it is less than actually 20% of the book. 80% of a book is all about like how can you navigate your married life, how can you find the partner,
You're
how
right.
can you woo a partner, what are the challenges in married life, what are the duties of a wife.
So it's basically
what are
a
the
guidebook in a
it's
sense,
a guidebook
right?
to relationships, and it actually has very interesting guidelines on how to, even it goes so nuanced, so detailed, that it has guidelines on how to smell better so that you can attract a partner as well.
Wow.
And where can you find a partner? So it has
So
networking
Sanatan Dharma has been
guidelines.
doing content creation for the longest time,
Longest
let's
time,
say.
and it has a lot of value in that as well.
Right.
So I would say Kama Sutra and our culture has better dating tips than your Bumble and Hinge as well. So I would recommend people to actually read the books as well. And that also caught my eye because
Right.
now it's telling me that it is not bad. Nothing is bad or evil. It is just how you practice it, how you restrain it as well, and how closed you are in terms of not just jumping into things madly, not believing into things madly, and not
Right.
getting lost into different things as well.
Absolutely.
So these 4 points that I have covered, I feel they are very important because each of them, if you guys have stuck with me, tells us a lot of like reality about this culture,
Right.
and it dispels the fact that religion or Hinduism is a punishment. It's not a punishment. It's actually a lot of interesting guidelines for you to live life, like the ones we discussed: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So that is it. That is how
I mean-
practically relevant it is.
It is great because I do believe you've done a fabulous job at like capturing essentially
Yes.
the essence of Sanatan Dharma. So now, as you've mentioned that, like just now we spoke about Sanatan Dharma being a guidebook in a sense, which tells you how to go about your life and everything. Now I'm assuming, of course, there may be guidelines for people to be able to deal with. Contemporary issues like mental health problems,
Okay.
anxieties. So, what is Sanatan Dharma's stance on mental health, battling with mental health issues, anxiety issues, related issues?
That's a wonderful question. So I'm going to split down my answer into 2 parts.
Right.
You mentioned the term guidebook. So I want to talk about that first because as I'm explaining all of these random concepts, people can get easily lost in the ocean as well कि ये ऐसे बोल रहा था फिर वैसे बोला. So the question first becomes is अगर आप guidebook बोल ही रहे हो, where do I begin? Where is the starting point?
Right.
Of Sanatan Dharma? And a lot of Gen Zs, what they do is they try to read something called as the Vedas online. They are very interesting कि ये हिंदुइज्म मतलब मैंने वेदा सुने थे, 4 वेदास है ऐसे सुने थे, मैं उनको पढ़ना स्टार्ट कर देता हूँ. That is a wrong starting point because what people don't know from our generation is that there are 2 types of texts in Sanatan Dharma. There is something called as the Shrutis and there is something called as the Smritis. Shrutis are things that were heard by our ancestors directly from God. So Shrutis are God made. Smritis are something that we wrote.
Right.
So think of Shrutis as a lecture delivered by God, and think of Smritis as the class notes we took as students as well.
Right.
And Vedas are Shrutis because they have been explained by someone that is so smart above us. If you start reading them without the right guru, without the right teacher, without the right guidance, you will either find them to be utter gibberish,
Right.
or you will find them to be very boring. Because they are not supposed to be read like this, like books.
Right.
They are supposed to be chanted. Their secret and their essence is in the pronunciation, the sounds as well. तो हम जब भी पंडित्स को देखते हैं मूवीज में या रियल लाइफ में, हम हंसते हैं कि वो ऐसे क्यों चांट कर रहे हैं, फनी वे में बहुत लाउडली चांट करते हैं मंत्रस हमारे पंडित हमारे, तो हम हंसते हैं उन पे, हम सोचते हैं कि ये ऐसे क्यों कर रहे हैं, बिकॉज द वाइब्रेशंस ऑफ दोज मंत्रस, द प्रोनाउंसिएशंस, दे क्रिएट सर्टन मेंटल इफेक्ट्स इन योर माइंड एज वेल. सो अनलेस यू आर ऑल्सो डूइंग दैट, there's no point in directly skipping to the Vedas and reading the Vedas as well, because they are so complicated. We have two things available to us noobs, for us dummies, for us Gen Zs, that make this concept easier. The first starting point, which would have been recommended by everybody, others on similar channels as well, is the text called as the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Now, very interestingly, two misconceptions. So the first question that comes up कि मैंने श्रीमद् भगवद गीता के बहुत सारे versions देखे हैं, तो मैं कौन सा pick करूँ? So the most authentic version is this one published by Gita Press Gorakhpur. You can Google that. You will find a free PDF online, or you can buy it from a bookstore
I'll
as
note
well.
that down for my own reference.
Yes, sure. So that's the most closest authentic version to it.
Right.
There have been many different interpretations by it by different sects or groups.
Right.
तो एक ISKCON का एक version है, which of course ISKCON considers to be the most authentic one, but that is still their belief. Hinduism is much more than just Krishna worship. There's a different, there are different lines of thought, sects, sampradayas is the word for it, which we'll talk about later.
Right.
But just to keep in mind that Gita Press Gorakhpur, it's the most authentic version that you can read. And the second one to keep in mind is that reading the Srimad Bhagavad Gita does not inevitably mean you would become a Krishna follower. It is a text that is said by Shri Krishna in the Mahabharat war. Separate episode for Mahabharat, not going to cover that now, but it is a text that is said to be, it is believed to be spoken by Krishna himself.
Right.
But just because he is speaking that doesn't mean that अभी आपको श्री कृष्ण में believe करना पड़ेगा. आप एक शिव भक्त होके भी ये टेक्स्ट पढ़ सकते हो और उसमें बहुत सारे इंसाइट्स गेन कर सकते हो. सो इट्स नॉट जस्ट फॉर कृष्णा वर्शिपर्स इज द मिसकंसेप्शन आई वांट टू क्लियर. In fact, you will be surprised to know that just as there is a Srimad Bhagavad Gita, there is also a text called as a Shiv Gita in our culture as well. Not a lot of people know this. It is a separate, there are debates about how authentic it is, but there are interpretations of the same message, as I said. The most common one is called as Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Now, the reason you hear about that text so much, it is the most famous text when it comes to Hindu text and Hindu literature. The reason behind it is it takes the essence of the Vedas and it puts it into Gen Z lingo. It explains why we die. It explains why we are here. It explains what happens after death. It explains why we are suffering. It explains who is God. It explains why God has created the universe and what is the universe. It explains all of this in a very simple manner, which is why people recommend going to it first rather than going to the Vedas. Vedas are not something that you are not ऐसे allowed to read. आप अगर आपके future, मैंने खुद अभी तक Vedas नहीं पढ़े हैं, full disclosure, because I'm not ready for them. I'm not ready for that level, so I don't want to read the wrong things and get the wrong messages as well.
Right.
You can read it at a later stage in life once you have done level 1, level 2, level 3. I have actually basically a Google Drive that anybody on LinkedIn can approach me for. उसमें मैंने level 1 10 बुक्स, लेवल 2 10 बुक्स ऐसे ऑलरेडी रखे हैं. तो आपको अगर फ्री रीडिंग चाहिए, एनीबडी कैन अप्रोच मी. आई एम मानिक ऑन लिंक्डइन एंड आई एम हैप्पी टू शेयर दैट एज वेल. पॉइंट बीइंग, बिफोर यू गेट टू level 5 in the Vedas, level 1 is important, which is where Srimad Bhagavad Gita comes in. Now, in case that's not your cup of tea, you feel like, nahi yaar, mujhe acha nahi laga, you have another thing in our literature called as bhashyas. Bhashyas means commentaries. As I said, bhashyas or commentaries are क्लास नोट्स रिटन बाय टॉपर स्टूडेंट्स. तो हम जब भी क्लास में अगर क्लास मिस करते हैं तो हम हमारे स्कॉलर फ्रेंड को कॉल करके बोलते हैं तेरा क्लास नोट्स देना. वो क्यों पूछते हैं हम? क्योंकि हमें मालूम है कि वो स्कॉलर बंदा है, वो उधर से हम नोट्स लेंगे तो हमें समझ जाएगा कि क्लास में क्या दिया है. तो ऐसे ही हमारे कल्चर में कुछ स्कॉलर लोग थे जिन्होंने ये सब पढ़ के हमारे लिए इजी किया, उसको हम भाष्यस बोलते हैं. सो आई हैव रिटन डाउन द नेम्स ओवर हियर सो दैट आई डोंट मिसप्रोनाउंस देम एज वेल. You can Google it. Once you Google the name and write Veda Bhashya after it, so XYZ plus Veda Bhashya, you will get the PDFs, EPUBs or whatever online. So the bhashyas that these people have written there by Swami Vivekananda, Madhavacharya, Dayanand Saraswati Swami, Ramanujacharya, आदि शंकराचार्य, जो एक बहुत फेमस नेम है हमारे कल्चर में, श्री औरोबिंदो, सर औरोबिंदो जो है, सायना, who was the first one to write this concept, write this bhashya. And of course, as I mentioned, first very good best person to refer to is Swami Vivekananda, because he's simplified a lot of things and he was also responsible for spreading Hinduism in the Western world as well, along with leaders of the ISKCON Sampradaya as well. And if anybody wants to watch this rather than read this, not all of us might be bookworms over here. So a few channels that I definitely want to recommend is, there's a channel called as HyperQuest. हिंदी में ही समझाते हैं तो इंडियंस के लिए बेस्ट है, इंग्लिश में वो नहीं समझाते हैं. बहुत ब्यूटीफुल भाई है मेरे, वो बहुत अच्छी तरह से इन सब कॉन्सेप्ट्स को सिंप्लीफाई करते हैं. आई गेट मोस्ट ऑफ माई नॉलेज फ्रॉम HyperQuest, फुल डिस्क्लोजर. देयर इज ऑल्सो अ वेरी ब्यूटीफुल गाय कॉल्ड एज भावेश युज, who many of you guys might be also following as well. He teaches you how to do the rituals, how to do sadhana, as we call it in real life as well, without having to have a lot of props and preparation. He teaches you how to do them at your home, in your kitchen, in your bedroom as well. And I have to recommend this person because I consider him my personal guru. He's called Om Dhumatkar. He's on Instagram and YouTube as well. Om Dada, as I like to call him. You can check out his channel as well to really learn the basics behind again, Srimad Bhagavad Gita. He explains mantras like what is the meaning behind Gayatri mantra. Right. Why should you read Hanuman Chalisa, which is a famous text, right. Famous shloka mantra. So these are some channels that I can recommend. These are some starting points that I can recommend for anybody who wants to, as you might have already seen, this is a huge ocean. So for anybody who wants to dive deep, right. These are the channels I recommend. So before I go on to the second part, I will pause here and let you also pitch in. What do you think of this so far? What are your thoughts?
I mean, so far, Manik, a lot of the questions that I probably, was pondering upon, you've already answered, in a very structured manner. And I feel like what I've particularly noted is how you've laid stress on approaching something in a structured manner, in a sequential manner. Ki, directly ऐसे किसी जगह से मत start करो जहाँ जाके तुम समझ ना पाओ. Because I feel like it's very important to be able to have, आप जो भी समझ रहे हो उसको अच्छे से समझ के then only move on to the next stage in the spiritual journey, right? Now it's also very interesting actually, because you've mentioned that ultimately there's one goal per se, right, that everyone talks about, sort of we are the Atman and then there's the Brahman and then merging with the Brahman, right? So that is one thing, and for that, I've heard people recommend that within the realm of Sanatan Dharma, that there are various pathways. Essentially, 4 pathways. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Karma Yoga, Raja Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. So, personally, I only know of Bhakti Yoga because I believe that is something that I personally practice. Right, right. So yeah, I wanted to know, as in, how does one understand what is the most suitable path for them to reach their ultimate destination?
So again, interesting that you talk about pathways as well, because the question that comes before following these pathways is why even follow. This is something that I feel should be done in my retirement. ये लोग बोलते हैं और मुझे relevance नहीं है. जो आपने पहले question पूछा वो मैं अभी complete करना चाहूँगा कि relevance क्या है, mental health वगैरह जो हमारे modern problems है, इससे कुछ link है कि is this dharma religion usually I should do when I'm in my retirement or something. So what a lot of people don't know is that mental health is also a topic that is discussed very extensively in our texts as well. The word that we Gen Zs use nowadays called as kalesh has existed in our dictionary as the 5 kleshas since millennia. So we have the concept of 5 kaleshas that cause all of the problems in life. They are avidya, which is ignorance, asmita, which is ego, I am doing something, raga, which is attachment to things, dvesha, which is repulsion. तो जब भी हम डेथ देखते हैं हम repulsed हो जाते हैं, कभी कुछ dirty चीज़ें देखते हैं तो हम repulsed हो जाते हैं. That is also a problem. That is what many जो हमारे साधुज है वो ऐसे क्यों dressed up होते हैं, वो crematorium grounds पे क्यों बैठते हैं, because they are countering that clash by saying death is normal, death is not dirty. A lot of the things we think these sadhus are doing are dirty. They are not trying to do dirty things deliberately. They are trying to ensure that they are tackling this klesha called as dvesha, which is repulsion towards dirty things. The moment you are repulsed to something, you are walking away from it as well. So you are not going towards the reality. So that's also a klesha. And the last one we have is abhinivesha, which is the fear of death, fear of ending, fear in general that all of us have as well. These 5 kleshas are the ultimate kalesh that we all have in life, and Sanatan Dharma has remedies for it as well. Interesting that you talk about mental health, because mental disorders, psychological disorders are also talked about in our texts as well. Anxiety is a very trending topic in Gen Zs. मुझे anxiety attacks आते हैं, मुझे anxiety आता है. So anxiety actually has its roots in a condition called as chittodvega, which is present in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. So there are texts that explain what anxiety is and how to cure anxiety with the proper herbs, with the proper meditation techniques, with the proper breathing techniques as well. We have another trendy word called as depression in our generation. मुझे depression हो गया, मुझे therapy चाहिए, which is great. I'm a mental health advocate, so my friend is a mental health expert, so I constantly promote her on my page.
Right.
The point being, depression is not a Western concept. ये आप जाके आपके mom dad को बताओ. Depression has its root in the concept called as Vishadha in our culture, and Vishadha has been explained that depression is normal, why it happens, how should you tackle it. Well, that has also been explained. We have terms like OCD, personality disorders. These are called as atattva abhinivesha in Hinduism and Sanatan Dharma as well. We have concepts like grief, which is shoka, and anger management issues, which is krodha. My point of saying all of this is, जो हमें लगता है कि बहुत modern western concepts है, वो already हमारे culture में present है और उनके ऊपर remedies भी दी है. तो बहुत सारे हमारे generation के लोगों को insomnia होता है, तो योगा में एक टेक्निक है, भ्रमण ब्रीदिंग उनको कहते हैं, जिसमें यू हैव टू होल्ड योर हैंड्स लाइक दिस, थम्स लाइक दिस, you have to like close your eyes and everything, and when you are exhaling you have to give the noise of that bumblebee जो होती है ना, ये अगर आप 15-20 मिनट तक करोगे, so I'm not gonna explain the technique here, I'm not a certified yoga teacher, you can look it up, but it's called as Brahman breathing, where once you release that sound a moment before you sleep, if you do that 15-20 minutes before you sleep every day, in 21 to 30 days your insomnia really gets cured. You don't need any medicine for it. You can use these techniques. These are natural techniques as well.
Seems like I finally have a solution that way.
You have a solution, and again, a clarification point, this does not mean that Sanatan Dharma rejects science or rejects medicine as well. We had our own kinds of medicines as well. We had our own surgeries back in the days as well. We had the world's first surgeon, one of the world's first surgeon called as Shushruta. He did cataract and liver transplants and heart transplants in those days, जब ये hospitals नहीं थे, modern medical equipment नहीं था. So when I'm explaining कि हमारे culture में ये सब चीज़ें हैं, the point is not to say that modern चीज़ें reject कर देता है, modern चीज़ें भी है, ये चीज़ें कम cost करती है, economical है और starting points है as well. That's what I want to explain. Now, when you are doing this, coming to your next question, there is the concept of different pathways that you can take in our culture as well. These are what we call the different yogas. So yoga, when I talk about that, many people imagine it is like the asanas, because yoga day is very famous now, made by our government, made very famous and popular by our government. So many people assume that yoga is equal to doing exercise and doing these postures, Surya Namaskar and so on and so forth. But yoga actually means how to live your life to get to that final level we call moksha as well. Yoga comes from yuj. Yuj means to bind things together as well. So it is binding our material body to our spiritual body, which is why it is called yoga. Yoga actually has 8 limbs. So just as we have 2 hands and 2 legs, we have 4 limbs. Just like that, yoga has 8 limbs, which is a popular concept called as Ashtanga Yoga, 8 limbs. Very interesting when you think about it, because it gives you a perspective beyond the asanas that you do. Right. The first 2 are yama and niyama. Yama and niyama are basically rules and guidelines. So yama means you are very honest. You are maintaining brahmacharya, which is not going into sex and not going into sexual things. You have niyama. Niyama are like rules. You keep your house clean. Right. You do this, you do that. You don't harm someone else. These are rules. Once you are done with level 1 and 2, then you can go to the third step, which is asana. Asana is what most people start their journey yogas with. Why are these asanas important? Because they are making your body flexible enough for the 4th difficult step, which is called as pranayama, which is breathing. अभी आप बोलोगे कि breathing तो easier है सूर्य नमस्कार से, तो पहले हम breathing क्यों नहीं सीखते और फिर body पे क्यों नहीं आते हैं? The reason is, for you to practice pranayama, for you to be worthy of pranayama, it is not simple deep breathing. Pranayama is not simple deep breathing. There's a lot of different techniques in pranayama as well. For you to be able to do them, your body has to be prepared. Right. So that is why you do asanas like this, then you bend down in the Surya Namaskar. You are preparing the airflow of your body to be very healthy, so that when you do difficult breathing techniques, you don't fall sick or you don't get a headache. Right. As well. So the reason I'm outlining all of this in structure is, you can see there's a lot of logic built into every different thing. Once you do asana, pranayama, then you have other things like pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and at the end samadhi. Samadhi basically means the same as moksha as well for us beginners as well. So this is your journey through yoga as well. Now, when you are doing this, you can adopt different mindsets, which is where your 4 yogas that are popular, those are not the only pathways. There are many different pathways as well, but that's where your 4 yogas come in. The first one is bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga tells you that the best pathway to pursue God is to just surrender to Him. In our culture, we call that sharanagati, which means I am surrendering myself to you. मेरा जो भी होगा तू देख लेगा. मैं अगर गिर भी गया तो भी तू संभाल लेगा. It is akin to blind belief in God, which is not a bad thing. You are believing, you are being a diehard optimist, and you are doing something called as nama japa, which means just smarana of God, just saying His name. तो कोई हरे कृष्णा हरे रामा बोलता है, कोई ओम नमः शिवाय बोलता है, कोई गणपति की श्लोका करता है. दैट्स फाइन एज लॉन्ग एज यू आर डूइंग इट विद द राइट इंटेंट. It doesn't matter what you do. And bhakti yoga is done with the intent of bhakti. It is like you are loving God. It is the yoga of devotion. Now, for someone like me, just as you said, you resonate with bhakti yoga, it's great. Right. For someone like me, devotion is not something that comes naturally to me. Not that I'm against it. I just don't see myself sitting and praying to God. Okay. Which is why there's a second concept called as karma yoga. Karma yoga basically says that you just have to work hard. That's it. You just have to work hard, but it is not as easy as it sounds in execution, because you have to work hard without your emotions and your selfishness, expectations in mind as well. So in reality, nothing is easy, but it is considered to be one of the faster, simpler, beginner ways as well. Right. Then you have Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga is the path of knowledge. Right. आप अभी पढ़ रहे हो, you are following Jnana Yoga because you are trying to gain more knowledge about the world. The little difference in Jnana Yoga is that you don't just pursue knowledge about the world, you pursue knowledge about yourself as well. So there is a distinction in Hinduism called as Dvait philosophy, right, and Advait philosophy. I will come to those, but Jnana Yoga takes the pathway of Advait philosophy. What Dvait says is that you and God are different, right, and you are supposed to reach God. What Advait says is that's not the case. You are actually God, you are the universe, you just have forgotten it. Right. You are living in illusion or Maya. सो अद्वैत फिलॉसफी का जो एक फेमस लाइन है सेक्रेड गेम्स में आपने सुना होगा, अहम ब्रह्मास्मि, विच इज आई एम द यूनिवर्स. And what Jnana Yoga says, the proponent of Jnana Yoga, Sri Adi Shankaracharya, right, who wrote extensively on this Advait and Jnana philosophy, Jnana Yoga philosophy, he says that as you start getting knowledge, right, you start removing this ignorance, and right, you start realizing things that you are the Brahma, you are the universe, you are God. It's not as easy as it sounds, but you get there eventually is what he's trying to say. Right. So Jnana Yoga is the pathway of knowledge. It just says that you have to read, you have to introspect, not just read books. You have to really do mental exercises, introspect, and eventually you will reach this stage where you realize the reality about life as well. Last yoga becomes Raja Yoga. Raja Yoga is where you are meditating and you are doing a lot of mental exercises as well. You are skipping the physical part. You are going for the royal path, which is why it is called as Raja Yoga, royal path, where you are going directly into your mental aspects of things. It involves meditation, a lot of mental exercises as well. You are training your mind directly, right, rather than putting focus on your body. You are training your mind as well. So these are different pathways that you can get to choose. And there is an ocean of thought that, as I said, you can find in the bhashyas yourself as well. But in essence, this is the way. It has Hinduism, the crux of Hinduism is different routes that you can go to. And it's interesting I talk about routes because I think you had a question about आजकल जो रूट लोग फॉलो कर रहे हैं वो महाकुंभ का रूट है. उधर से हम आपकी स्पिरिचुअल जर्नी स्टार्ट कर रहे हैं बहुत सारे लोग. Would love to hear what you have on Mahakumbh as well.
Yes, Manik, I'm thankful to you for bringing it up because I was just going to bring it up as it is. So, the Mahakumbh, it's being talked about a lot, and what I understand of it is that it's one of the most transformative and perhaps one of the largest spiritual gatherings which has brought together lots of people with, lots of beliefs. So, how exactly do you see it? As in, what exactly is this Mahakumbh? What is the origin? What do you have to share with us regarding the Mahakumbh?
Before we dive into the specifics of it, I just want you to think about where it is held. So it's held at 4 places. That is something everybody knows. There's Prayag, there's Haridwar, there's Ujjain, and there's Nashik, Trimbakeshwar as well. Okay. If you plot these on a map, you will realize that all of these are near river banks as well. Yamuna, Saraswati, Ganga, गोदावरी, all of these river banks के आजू बाजू में ये places linked है. Which brings us to a very interesting theory that a lot of people don't know about Mahakumbh, is that one of the many reasons this was started, there is a Jyotish Shastra, astrological angle to it, कि 12 साल में क्यों होता है, 144 years में फिर महाकुंभ क्यों बनाया, महाकुंभ जिसे हम बोलते हैं, वो क्यों बनाया जाता है. So there is an astrological angle to it, but the practical angle, if you really think about it, was that Mahakumbh is technically the world's first conference. आप बिजनेस कॉन्फ्रेंस सुने होंगे, आप नेटवर्किंग इवेंट्स सुने होंगे. हमारे कल्चर में नेटवर्किंग इवेंट पहले से बड़ा था, और नेटवर्किंग इवेंट किधर हो सकता है, जिधर सब लोग आके ट्रैवल कर सके, बराबर. और उस जमाने में रोड्स तो नहीं थे, रिवर्स से लोग ट्रैवल करते थे. तो ये 4 स्पॉट्स स्ट्रेटेजिकली जो चुने हैं, वो ऐसे चुने हैं कि अलग अलग संप्रदाय, अलग अलग ग्रुप्स आके मिले एक दूसरे से, और एक दूसरे के लर्निंग्स, एक दूसरे के एक्सपीरियंसेस शेयर करें. दैट्स द प्रैक्टिकल रीजन बिहाइंड महाकुंभ. येस, देयर इज द एंगल ऑफ स्पिरिचुअलिटी. यू कैन गो टेक अ डिप, then you gain certain spiritual energies to it as well. During this time, there is an alignment of the planets, there is an alignment of the Navagrahas, which is again another episode we'll have to talk about. But there are different aspects that are true, but those aspects are something you guys must have already seen online. So I'm not gonna shed light on those aspects. Right. The hidden aspect behind it has always been, because what I keep talking to you about it, ki Sanatan Dharma has always been about helping each other, forming communities. It has had a very practical meaning behind it, practical purpose and goal behind it as well. So ये जो महाकुंभ के मेले लगते थे, वो सिर्फ ये डिप लेने के लिए नहीं, बट संप्रदायों को एक साथ लाने के लिए भी किए जाते थे. इनफैक्ट ओल्ड डेज में क्या होता था कि जो राजा थे वो डिबेट स्पॉन्सर करते थे, कि आप साधु अलग अलग रीजन से आए और आपका जो एक्सपीरियंस है वो बताए, और साधुओं के बीच में डिस्कशंस होते थे, डिबेट्स होते थे. इट वाज एसेंशियली द वर्ल्ड्स मोस्ट एंशिएंट बिजनेस कॉन्फ्रेंस दैट वाज टेकिंग प्लेस एज वेल. एंड दिस ब्रॉट टुगेदर द अखाड़ाज इन हिंदुइज्म. हमारे हिंदुइज्म में बहुत सारे अखाड़ाज है, कोई बोलता है 12 है, कोई बोलता है 72 है. Akhadas are basically groups that were created in the ancient times. Again, Adi Shankaracharya is credited to have led the formation of these akhadas. Right. The uniqueness about akhadas was that these were not just spiritual people, they were trained in weaponry and weapons as well. Why? To protect our temples from invaders. So when these akhadas used to train in their own regions, they would want to hear from other akhadas as well कि आपने कैसे आपके टेम्पल को डिफेंड किया, आपने क्या टैक्टिक यूज की. So to ensure that these akhadas are coming together and discussing tactics amongst themselves, helping each other out, helping each other get to spirituality better, that is why Mahakumbh used to take place as well. It takes place every 12 years because we have a graha, we have a deity called as Brihaspati, Jupiter, who takes 12 years to complete the rotation as well. And that is why there's a significance behind it, that Brihaspati is responsible for our spiritual evolution. तो हम जो हिंदुइज्म में बोलते हैं फुल सर्कल जो हम आते हैं, इसलिए हम उस ग्रह को वर्शिप करते हैं. अगेन वेरी सिंबॉलिक बिकॉज इट इज कंप्लीटिंग दोज 12 years. We are also trying to come back to our origins, help each other out, again go on our journeys, then again come back and again share our stories, again go back as well. Yeah. There is a mythological angle to it as well in the Samudra Manthan that had happened. Right. That's a celestial event. We'll have to do a series of this on the podcast. So that is an event that is believed to have happened. And then it has a significance to number 12, which is why लोग बोलते हैं इसलिए 12 years है. तो आप अगर देखने जाओगे महाकुंभ क्यों होता है, इसके आंसर्स बहुत सारे हैं. मेरी सिर्फ अटेम्प्ट थी इस एपिसोड में एक्सप्लेन करना कि इसका प्रैक्टिकल मीनिंग क्या है, which was to bring together communities as well, not just take a spiritual dip in the rivers, which are, yes, there is a belief, there is faith that the bodies are charged during that time. But you don't have to go to those places if you're not comfortable, if you're worried about your safety, if you're unable financially to go. You can do the same dip in your home as well, with the goal of rejuvenating yourself, recharging yourself and moving ahead as well. So the dip is something you can do in your home. In fact, the person I was referring to, भावेश जी, उन्होंने बनाया है एक रील जिसमें वो एक्सप्लेन करते हैं कि घर में भी आप कैसे कर सकते हो. एक पॉडकास्ट है, लेवल सुपर माइंड एक ऐप है, उनके साथ उन्होंने एक पॉडकास्ट एपिसोड शूट किया था. Do check that out. You will get an explanation on how you can do that sadhana at home as well. Point being, everything that you see, there's a practical symbolism and essence behind it that you can pursue as well. Right. And I hope this episode has inspired you and you guys to just go on this journey and come back for more, hopefully in the future as well.
Thank you so much for agreeing, taking out time out of your tight schedule to be with us today. I am sure our viewers have gained a lot of knowledge, and I know for a fact that you've dispelled a lot of myths that people have, with regards to Sanatan Dharma and spirituality and Mahakumbh. So thanks for all of that. We hope to see you again. As a matter of fact, it would be nice to do a series on this whole thing, because before the podcast also we had this discussion that it's quite an expansive topic. So yeah guys, that depends on you all. Please like, share, subscribe, ताकि we can have Manik back again for another episode in the series. Now, this is one standard question that we always have for all of our guests. So of course we're going to present the same to you. So, when you think of our podcast, when you think of Smaash podcast, what is the one word that comes to your mind and instantly?
High energy. I know two words, but high energy is
Okay.
what Josh is fantastic.
It's smashing.
It's smashing, yes.
So thank you so much, Manik. We'd love to have you again.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and we'll see you guys again on my LinkedIn, on my Instagram, and on my YouTube as well, and on your page.
Absolutely. Please go follow his channel. We'll be linking down below. And yeah.